What's going on, sports fans, and welcome back to the third edition of the Bettor's Almanac podcast. I am Matt Kowalis, back again with my good friend and partner, Eric Pauly, and what a second edition of the podcast, my man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. We were on fire last week. Matt from out of the woodwork calling the Pittsburgh Steelers upset on the money line. Absolutely ridiculous, and you gotta love it. Last week was crazy, but we killed it on the show. We gave away a $200 free bet. Congrats to that winner, and we got more in store for this week.
Yes, sir. And hey, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys reaching out, texts, DMs, on Twitter, whatever it may be, just saying that you listen to the podcast, you hit on some of those picks. And, man, we had some absolute bombs last week. We even hit on a teaser. And, yeah, like Eric was saying, huge shout-out to the $200 free bet winner from PointsBet Sportsbook in Matt Pettit. That is in your account now. Generally, PointsBet gets that out for some Thursday night football, so that's when you can use that bet or expect it. Use it for Thursday night, save it, whatever, doesn't matter. But this week we also have four $50 free bets from PointsBet Sportsbook, where if you haven't signed up right now, you definitely need to, because you ever wish you could get a second chance on a bet that didn't go your way? How about 5 of them? Well, now you can sign up with PointsBet Sportsbook. Sign up with the code Almanac to get 5 second chance bets of up to $500. With PointsBet second chance bets, you get 5 straight days of second chances, where PointsBet will match your losing wager in free bets. That's promo code Almanac to get 5 second chance free bets of any points betting types, including live betting features you won't find anywhere else. PointsBet, do it live. Offer not available in all states. T&Cs applies. See the promotions page and terms and conditions section of PointsBet website for more detail. Void where prohibited. Must be 21 plus or older. Call 1-800-GAMBLER-CRISIS hotline for referral services. Gambling problem? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Again, guys, $4 $50 free bets this week. It's going to be huge. Subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends. Recommend us, because the following week is one $400 free bet. And Eric, I know you're ready for that.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We are giving out winners on the show. We're giving out free bets for all of our listeners, subscribers, and commenters. So we really appreciate all of you. Like, comment, and rate, and subscribe to our podcast. It's the best way to help us grow. And we also love to make you money in the process.
Yes, sir. And I think we definitely did that last week. Again, podcast went a little long last week, so we're trying to speed things up here. But last week hit on every single bet. The dog of the day, which was the Pittsburgh Steelers, won at plus 310. We had the Steelers plus 8.5. We had the Broncos plus 4.5. We had the Bills minus 2.5. We had the Commanders
3% play on the Commanders on that money line in that ugly ass Thursday night game, but a win's a win.
a win's a win. And here's the thing, though: if you're betting on the Commanders, you better be ready for a sweat fest, because that's just how that team plays, man.
Dude, I watch them too often, and to throw for 99 yards and get a fumble recovery on a muffed punt to basically put your team in the lead, and then to give up egregious plays to let the other team get into the red zone by kicking that stupid ass field goal. Damn it, this shit sucks. But going into this week, Matt, you absolutely killed it on the Steelers last week. We have another dog that you're eyeing big time that you think are going to win this football game. Not as juicy of a price, but an underdog nonetheless. You like the San Francisco 49ers at home this weekend against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tell me why.
Yeah, I do. And, if you followed me, you kind of know the 49ers are like my sweetheart of the NFL this season. I just absolutely love the 49ers. And if I'm being honest, I'm pretty good at picking their spots. I took Denver in that Monday night game against the 49ers, where Denver won outright by a point, which was pretty sad. I was off them last week, and I'm back on them this week against the Kansas City Chiefs, which I know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, the Chiefs are in a bounce-back situation as well. And, yeah, I would have to agree. I do think they are. But for the 49ers, they're 3-3. The Kansas City Chiefs are 4-2. And it's actually the additions this week that the 49ers are getting back that kind of pushed me over the edge to make me think that they can beat the Kansas City Chiefs outright. They're getting Nick Bosa back, who's a top 5 defensive player throughout the NFL. The guy is so explosive coming off the edge. He can bull rush you. He can speed rush you. Very good in run support as well. One of my favorite players in the NFL. But then they're also getting back Jimmy Ward, who's one of the best safeties throughout the NFL. It's a line of trust with him back there, essentially, especially when you're playing a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. One thing, though, with the Kansas City Chiefs is they still haven't really had that guy who's taken the top off the defense. If you don't have a guy who can take the top off the defense against the San Francisco 49ers, they're very, very good at keeping things in front of them and coming up and making tackles. I think they can limit the chunk plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. And when looking at this Chiefs team, we've talked about this, Eric, and I'm maybe one of the few that believes this, but I do think this Kansas City Chiefs team is overrated. I do think that this defense can be exposed in some games. And I think when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, he's able to kind of hide a lot of the weaknesses throughout a team or potential weaknesses in a defense or even weaknesses in the offense. This kid is that good, and I hope a lot of people do realize how just absolutely crazy guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are playing. Like, we're honestly blessed to be watching guys like this. But all in all, I just think the 49ers at home, getting some of their key guys back. Jimmy Garoppolo, throughout his entire career, he's been an up and down quarterback. This is to be expected. It should not be a shock. When he has a down game, he does tend to bounce back and play a little better. So he had a down game against the Atlanta Falcons in a brutal loss last week. I like this spot to bounce back against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a team that's getting healthier. They can run the football, and they do play a lot better in San Francisco. So I expect a good outing out of the 49ers. And if you don't like the money line at plus 128, you can take it at 2.5, but I'm also waiting to see if it creeps up to 3.
Yeah, so I see only 1-3 on the board currently. So 2.5's mostly everywhere along there. So I totally see where you're coming from. Obviously, this is a Super Bowl rematch. How much do you think that's weighing on the 49ers and the Chiefs? Brandon, do you think for the Chiefs specifically, last week, that AFC showdown of juggernauts between them and the Bills was kind of their primary target? The Niners, of course, laid that egg in Atlanta, but like you said, they're getting healthy. Mm-hmm. Do you think the 49ers have that extra motivation this week, or you think just from an X's and O matchup standpoint, they just match up really well?
In all honesty, both. When I look at some games, I like to check certain boxes, like, is there a revenge factor? Do I believe they have an edge on defense? Do I believe they have an edge on offense? In terms of the revenge factor, yes, you have to check that box. Another box that I failed to mention, so I appreciate you bringing this up, is with the Kansas City Chiefs. When you face a team like the Buffalo Bills, you get up so high for that game. You get so hyped for that game. Everyone was saying game of the year, Bills, Chiefs. When you get that hype and you put that much effort out there, there is also that chance that in the following game, you have that letdown. Just because you got so hyped, just because you put so much into that Buffalo Bills game. If it's the San Francisco 49ers, if I'm being honest, they could have overlooked the Atlanta Falcons and been looking to this game for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, again, going back to the San Francisco 49ers, I think they've honed in on this game a lot more than, say, the Kansas City Chiefs. So I do think that boosts them on top of that. And then, yeah, anytime you lost in the Super Bowl, I would think that you got a little fire under your ass going into that matchup.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And while this is, of course, a dog of the day right now, Matt thinks that the Niners can win. Something that I'm going to transition to, but I think is also a great spot, is the 49ers in a 6-point teaser. So if you do not know, but you should know from the first 2 episodes, I make my bones betting teasers in the NFL. It's been a slow and wonky start because there are some things called like Wong teasers. Those are teasers that historically from the 2000 to 2010 were hitting at over 75% rates, which was enough to, go over a break-even percentage. So if you were picking the right spreads at certain spots, you were winning money. But now with the NFL a couple of years ago moving that extra point back, scoring has changed in the NFL recently. And I think these Wong teasers are becoming a little less relevant. And the sportsbooks, of course, know that they exist. They know that a lot of talking heads out there know they exist. So they've kind of been shifting their lines a little bit. But that 49ers plus 2.5 fits the standard Wong criteria. And given that matchup, and I broke it down, I think they're another option. I think there's certainly an option for a 6-point teaser this weekend, but there's a lot of big spreads this weekend. There are 8 spreads right now currently of 6 or higher in the NFL, which is a little bit crazy because when you look at not only the season where the dogs have been dominating, but kind of these matchups, a lot of these matchups, I don't think on paper warrant these big spreads. But considering how dogs have done, maybe it's a week for the sports books to give back to the public, have them, because I know that they absolutely murdered it last week and they made a fortune, but it certainly could be a spot where the public bounces back. But a game where I think also it fits the Juan criteria, but also just in my opinion is the right side in general. And we'll go into the bigger spreads first, but I think the Indianapolis Colts plus 8.5 in a 6-point teaser could certainly pair them up with the 49ers because they both hit that criteria. Are like a must-add teaser leg. I was breaking down this game and looking at the Tennessee Titans. They have scored almost all of their points in the first half, and they've only scored 14 second-half points, 14 of them being in the third quarter, 0 in the fourth. They beat the Colts in week 4, and that was a 7-point win. But the Colts absolutely dominated time possession. They just lost the turnover battle. They beat the Raiders, but the Raiders outgained them. They beat the Commanders outgained them and outplayed them. It was just a turnover battle. So I think even though the Tennessee Titans are coming off a bye week, the Indianapolis Colts have been building some momentum over the last 2 weeks on their 2-game winning streak. So I'm not going to go as far as to say they're going to win this game outright, but I like the Indianapolis Colts as basically a lock to be a teaser leg at plus 8.5. Matt, do you see that game differently, or what do you think about that?
No, I'm with you there. I like that play. Like you said, the Colts are building some momentum, so I would like to side with them as well. You did mention that the only fact is that Tennessee is coming off a bye with Vrabel, and I think Vrabel is a very good coach, prepares very well. But this is one of those games where I don't see it getting over 7 for either side. I think this is going to be a 7-point game. Whoever wins this within that score. So I'm totally with you with that 6-point teaser with the Colts there.
Yeah, I 100% agree that this is a spot where I don't see a team getting blown out here. I think the Colts are a really great bounce back spot, even though they are 30th in the NFL in total DVOA. This kind of brings it to my next point and going into some of the bigger spreads that are potential teaser matchups or not. So looking in just terms of DVOA from Football Outsiders proprietary statistic, the Indianapolis Colts are 30th in the NFL in DVOA. The Tennessee Titans are 19th in the NFL in total DVOA. So you have that big gap, that 11-spot gap in DVOA, but they're only getting 2.5 points on the road. Then you look at a game like the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots. The Patriots are 10th in DVOA. The Bears are 31st in DVOA, so a spot behind the Titans. And that spread goes all the way up to a 7.5 or an 8. There are also some other factors, like, again, we'll talk about a little bit too. Miami is 16th in DVOA, Pittsburgh 23rd, but that spread's also 7. So like I mentioned, 8 games with spreads of 6 or higher. And I don't know if this is going to be another trap week where, you should just be taking the dogs with the points and going that way, or if it's when the favorites get revenge and the public gets revenge on the books. But looking down, and I know we're going to talk about this again where you like the Miami pick, and we'll go all over that game. But are there any other games with big spreads that you think have a shot, or do you like any of these bets teased down to basically PKs or -1s that you feel comfortable laying that?
I'm with you. I do like some of the bigger spreads. When I look at the Atlanta Falcons and think about teasing that 6.5, I do like that somewhat just because I feel like Atlanta has been a really tough team this year. They've been scrappy. They're similar to the Lions where they keep coming at you. They have that never say die attitude. So I would like to potentially teasing the Atlanta Falcons there. And again, another team that I'm looking at is the Detroit Lions. And people might think this is a homer pick, but they are getting 7 points against the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is due to come back. Yes, I do have some worry about that Cowboys defensive line, but the best way to limit a defensive line is with a superior offensive line. And that is one thing that the Detroit Lions do have. The Detroit Lions are coming off a bye week. They had a chance to get healthier. Guys like DJ Chark are coming back. Amon-Ra St. Brown is supposed to come back. And yes, I do understand that the weakness is most definitely that defense. But, Dak Prescott coming back to the Cowboys most likely. I don't expect him to come out just absolutely swinging. He might need maybe a quarter to get his feet under him or something along those lines. So I do think if you're getting 7 points and that's something, I'm interested in potentially taking the Lions outright at +7. I have not done it yet. It's not an official pick or anything like that. But the thought of teasing that against the Dallas Cowboys, I think the Lions can put up maybe 21 points in this game. And I think if they get that and you tease it, that's a very safe option.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you that I automatically look to the Lions there. It's just the difficulty with also teasing too is like you get the 6 points, you're up to 13, but you don't have that 14 covered. You have obviously the 3, the 7 now, the 10. Of course, that's great, but that makes it a little bit tough. So in terms of other places I'm looking, I really think that the Las Vegas Raiders at PK or -0.5, basically PK -1, which would be -2 if your teasers do not push, is an option I'm looking at. And you might think, oh, the Texans are 1-3-1, the Raiders are 1-4. But I think that in both these teams coming off the bye, I think that the Raiders, though, are a little bit undervalued, a little bit underrated right now, solely because that the record doesn't look good. But they've been in 3 of those losses in very close games. And actually, all 4 of those games, they've looked like a decent team. They haven't looked like a complete washover. You like the Dolphins to win outright. I get a little bit nervous looking at that game solely because of the coaching of Brian Flores coming back to Miami. I think that's a big storyline. And then other bigger spreads on the week. Teasing down the Buccaneers makes no sense, and I can't touch the Panthers with a 10-foot pole. They're absolute dog shit. And then the Browns Ravens is something that actually intrigues me. That's something to maybe the Browns the Ravens down to a PK as well, because I think they match up very well against the Cleveland Browns. Then finally, Falcons, Bengals, again, teasing up from 6.5 to 12.5 doesn't have great value. Yes, you get the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 now, but you still don't have 14 if that becomes a 2-score game on some last-minute nonsense like the Bengals have been doing. So definitely a ton of options. Anything that I do put out, of course, will be on Sports Memo because I bet at least 2 teasers a week and 6.3 team teasers at plus 180 odds at least 2 or 3 times a week. So I'll have my eye on that, but I have nothing official yet, Matt. You were telling me, though, you have some things cooking, and we're going to talk to you about one of your favorite games of this weekend, Sunday Night Football, Miami Dolphins hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk to me why you like it, Miami.
Yeah, so in this game, and to briefly branch off your point real quick before I hit this, talking about the teasers, like I really appreciate your point of view with the teasers and stuff like that, because I'm not that experienced with it. I'm not that in depth with it. And I totally agree with you. I think this is one of those weeks where when I went over the slate, I'm more of a situational bettor, I guess you could say. Of course I look at stats, against the spread stats, stuff like that. But I love bounce back spots. I love those teams who I feel like have their backs against the wall and need to win. And this just isn't one of those weeks for me. I don't see a ton of upset, so I like that Las Vegas pick'em as well. And another team that I feel like is in a bounce back spot is the Miami Dolphins. They lost last week to the Minnesota Vikings. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling on the road to face off against the Miami Dolphins for Sunday Night Football. Prime time spot. All the eyes are going to be on them. The Steelers are 2-4 on the season and coming off a huge win that we called on this podcast over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which was plus 310. And as for the Dolphins, they lost at home, like I said, to the Minnesota Vikings, and have now lost 3 games in a row. The Miami Dolphins were one of the top 3 teams at the beginning of the season. And now they have definitely fallen from the top, losing 3 in a row, and are looking to get back on track this Sunday night. One thing that is going to be huge for them is Tua is supposed to be back. It's not 100% confirmed right now, but you see the huge difference when Tua is at quarterback to be when Teddy Bridgewater is at quarterback.
Huge. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is just absolutely enormous. It's huge for Tyreek Hill, and it seems even bigger for Jalen Waddle. It seems like for Tyreek Hill, he can just get open whoever the quarterback it is. It doesn't even matter. Jalen Waddle is right there, but his numbers have definitely dropped off without Tua at the helm. But, I kind of want to start with the defense when facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. First off, this is a Miami Dolphins defense that had 6 sacks against the Minnesota Vikings in week 5. That's a better offensive line than what the Pittsburgh Steelers have. The Pittsburgh Steelers actually have one of the worst offensive lines in all of football. When looking at the Dolphins' advanced statistics, they do give up a good amount of passing yards, but they've also been fairly injured in their secondary. They lost Xavier Howard. He is coming back. He's back now, but this will be his second game getting his feet back under him. And they're actually one of the better teams throughout the NFL at stopping the run. So if Najee Harris can't get it going, that means you're putting the ball in the hands of Kenny Pickett, who may play, he may not play. And then if not Kenny Pickett, it's going to be Mitch Trubisky. And there's one thing that I want to point out right now, and I guess I have a different kind of angle with this, because with Kenny Pickett, he's in concussion protocol right now. If he cannot play, then it might be Mitch Trubisky or it might not. Mike Tomlin is saying Kenny Pickett is going to play this game at this point in time, but I think this could potentially be a smokescreen because last week at halftime, Mitch Trubisky and Deontay Johnson got in a fist fight in the locker room. So I'm wondering if Kenny Pickett can't play, are they going to put in Trubisky? After something like that happens in the locker room, I think that's a question that I might have. And that's a lot of things that didn't hit like mainstream media. I only saw this on like the Steelers outlets and stuff like that. So again, I think that could potentially be a smokescreen. And if in fact, say Kenny Pickett is declared out and Trubisky is the starting quarterback, I could see this go to a 7.5. And, you'd much rather get a 7 at that point in time. So, again, that's a big reason that I like this Miami Dolphins team right now. I think just with the boost of Tua coming back, the whole team is going to get excited. It was very deflating when that hit happened against Tua, getting carted off, going to the hospital. So I think seeing Tua come back, being on the field with them will be very uplifting. And again, they have one of the most potent offenses throughout the entire NFL when he is the quarterback. And the Steelers actually have one of the worst defenses throughout the NFL. Last week was very situational. We talked about that. They won their Super Bowl. Now it's time for the letdown, and it's time for the Dolphins to bounce back. Take the Dolphins -7. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you there. So this is a game when looking at it. So the Miami Dolphins last week, they gave away that game to the Vikings. They were in that game all the way through. They were penalized, I think it was 10 times for 100-plus yards. That wiped away a bunch of negative plays that they had against Minnesota. I think that the Steelers, like you mentioned, their defense, it ranks well in DVOA because of what they did against the Buccaneers last week. But like you mentioned, I think is something to consider is not only looking at kind of the stats and the results of the drives, but kind of looking at how it went down play by play. Tom Brady was tearing them up. He just cannot finish those drives. He was throwing dots. Receivers were getting open. The Steelers were just making those timely plays. So it is kind of, fair to believe that the Steelers are at that win. You should have less stock in that win for the Steelers and less stock also in that loss for Miami, considering the situation with Bridgewater, the fact that they were penalized so many times, and now that they're playing back-to-back home games. Just the one thing that I would just like to point out, though, is that it is a matchup of strength versus strength. Miami 6th in the NFL in team offensive DVOA. Pittsburgh, they're all the way toward the bottom of that list at 24th. But looking at the defensive DVOA, Miami is at 25th. Pittsburgh is up actually at 15, middle of the pack, but still in the positives with defensive negative. With DVOA on defense, you want to be at a negative number. So I think it is a strength for strength. 7 points, though, seems like a lot to me, not enough to where I'm going to back the Pittsburgh Steelers, not trying to go against you or anything at the same time, because I could certainly see Miami winning this football game. But covering 7 points, man, it seems like a tall task. I'm not going to lie.
No, I hear you. And sometimes, that's kind of why I go with the numbers as well. Sometimes the numbers want to push you the other way to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that makes me want to stay with the Dolphins. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of reminds me of that Browns Steelers Thursday night game. You see, Steelers 4.5, they're going to cover, and what do you know? The fucking Browns brown them, and they don't even cover that spread. So I totally understand that aspect.
Exactly. And that's how, in all honesty, if you took my bets last week, that's how a lot of my bets were. We were on the Broncos +4.5. We rode with the Steelers +8.5. They're not the sexiest games in the world, but they get the job done. So yeah, that's kind of how this one is at the Dolphins -7. I really wish I could get this at -6.5. I really, really do. But I also think that if Pickett is declared out, that this could rise a half point. I think
certainly. If Pickett's not playing confirmed, this number is going to shoot up immediately. Sitting 7s mostly everywhere, some 7.5s actually. So if you are a Steelers backer, maybe look to find it there. Our gracious sponsors, PointsBet, hanging at 7-110 as we speak. Mm-hmm. But going into the next game we're going to break down here, I want to mention just briefly, because I overlooked them in that teaser section. One of my favorite teaser legs this week, and I think my survivor pick, I'm in a big survivor pool, is going to be the New England Patriots to win against the Chicago Bears. Right now, sitting 8s, 7.5s, even some 9s at certain places. But if I can get that at a 7 or 7.5 to have the Patriots win by 2 points, I'm locking that in. But going to another big matchup looking at, again, for new listeners, I'm a giant Commanders fan, but that does not mean I bet the Commanders. I faded the hell out of them a couple weeks ago against the Titans, 3% play. Titans won. I rode with my guys last Thursday, 3% play, Commanders money line, Commanders won. But now I'm looking at this game against the Green Bay Packers, which we know they lost 2 straight games to pretty, I don't want to say shitty anymore, but like, I guess upstart, maybe punching above their weight class teams in the New York Jets, New York Giants, because both of those teams, for as much shit as I gave them to start the season, because I didn't think either of them would be remotely good whatsoever, just then like their coaching, their schemes, their players. But, you got to give credit where credit's due and admit when you're wrong in this business of all businesses. But looking at this game against the Packers, Taylor Heineke will make the start. Carson Wentz broke his finger. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. We've seen what Taylor Heineke can do for this football team last year. It was a 7-10 campaign, but he played as well as you would expect against one of the better schedules in the NFL. The guy has a noodle arm compared to Carson Wentz, and just in general, I think probably Matt and I could throw the ball further than Taylor Heineke sometimes. But one thing that he brings to the table that Carson Wentz did not have whatsoever, it's actually miserable watching him in the pocket. He looks like a fucking statue. But Taylor Heineke can run when he gets pressured. The Green Bay Packers are one of the highest pressure rates in the NFL, and the Washington Commanders do not do well against pressure. Wentz has been sacked the most times, but a lot of those sacks were totally Carson Wentz's fault. He would hold on to the ball too long. He would try to scramble, but his legs don't work because he's just, too many injuries, and he's just not that kind of player. And he would, of course, have his own issues, and he's going to sack 23 times. The Commanders' offensive line has been bad this season. Their skilled players haven't been able to really get open and create space. But I think that given this line of 4.5, it's a little bit shady because looking at the NFL this year, lines that close at 4.5, 5, and 5.5, underdogs, if I'm not mistaken, are 9-3 against the spread in those spots. And this goes back to what I'm talking about with like the teaser lines looking. I've never seen so many 4s and 5s as closing lines in the NFL because you don't want to bet that favorite in a teaser because, teasing that plus 0.5 point is, I guess, technically money line, but you're losing some value there. And then on the other end, getting 11.5 points is solid, but you got obviously 3, 7, and 10 covered, but, it's not necessarily the best spot to be in. But I think that the Packers at 4.5, you got to ride with Green Bay. I haven't made this official as a play yet because I'm still monitoring the market because of the fact that it's come down to 5, back to 5.5, now back to 4.5. I'm still letting the market mature a little bit because other weeks, I think earlier in the season, you can get much better looks jumping on early. But now you kind of have to see where things are settling and you can get some value in terms of like 0.5 point or a full point. But NFL is such a sharp market. You're never getting more of that. But just when I broke down this game, the Packers have a ton of issues. But one thing they do is pressure the quarterback and play pass defense. The things that Washington can't do is protect the quarterback and throw the football. We can't really even run the ball. The Packers can run the ball. On defense, our passing defense and our defense in general has actually been playing a lot better, but we're better at stopping the run. And though Randall Cobb is not playing, and of course, Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks we've seen, he doesn't look like himself. But I just think this matchup against Washington just presents a bounce-back spot. I think people are thinking, oh, the Commanders won on Thursday, but anybody who watched the game and broke down the script knows that we didn't deserve shit in that game. We should have certainly lost that football game. 3 red zone stops. All my signs are pointing to Green Bay covering this 4.5. Matt, you have any positive light for me on the Commanders, or you think that, again, this is just a bounce-back spot for Green Bay?
No, I'm with you. I would be on the bounce-back spot for Green Bay. The Commanders last week was more of a spot than anything. They were very fortunate to be playing the Bears there because they played an absolutely brutal football game. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't that end in a muff punt?
So muff punt, the Commanders scored. Then we went for a field goal for like our 50 to go up, not even to score some stupid shit. Should have punted, miss it. They get into the red zone, have 4 tries, and somehow we stop them for the 3rd time in the red zone.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty ugly game. And like you said, one thing that the Green Bay Packers are doing very well is rushing the quarterback. Rashawn Gary is playing very good this season. He's been an absolute force. And the Green Bay Packers still have guys like Jair Alexander back there who can lock up your number 1 wideout. Like you said, Taylor Heineke cannot throw the football very well. Once in a blue moon, he will have one of those games where he looked pretty good there. But more often than not, he's just a guy, he can scramble around, he can extend the play a little bit. But once he's throwing that football down the field, it's not pretty.
No,
okay, it's really not pretty. And, it is tough if you lose on a team, it's tough to be gun shy with them and things like that. I've lost with Green Bay. But it's a week-by-week league. You just got to go back to it. I would say Green Bay is the correct play here. It's been a play that I've been flirting with putting on my card as well. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I'm just kind of, again, seeing how this market develops, because in the Commanders world, like there's nothing that's like in the middle. Everything's either really good or really fucking horrible.
Yeah.
I could see it being really horrible and Aaron Rodgers taking a shit all over us. He did that last year in a 24-10 win at Lambeau. But I could also see Taylor Heineke, that underdog mentality, loved Brett Favre growing up, reason why he wears number 4, coming and kind of silencing the doubters in the fan base that say, I don't even want to see Heineke go straight to Howell. Fuck Heineke. Like, yeah. I could see him kind of having a little bit of a game. So getting the Commanders at 10.5 in a teaser is not off the table, but also neither is getting the Packers, just taking the Packers with this spread. I can see it going either way.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, this is a game I'd be shocked. And I know I've been shocked in the past. The Packers lost 2 in a row, but I'd be shocked if the Packers lost this game. I think this is a pretty safe teaser play.
Yeah, and I don't think that again, it could come 3 being a huge key number, could come down to that 3, that 4.5 might be able to save Washington. The market did move in their favor, but at the same time, it's really hard to predict. You don't know what the hell you're getting with this Washington Commander football team.
Yep.
But we obviously have a big game tonight. I don't have any props for the week yet. Everything that I post will be posted on Sports Memo, so make sure to find my picks and plays there. I also tweet them out after they happen, so you see what's going on. Always feel free to hit me DMs or ask me to, if you have any insight on games, anything, more than happy to talk with you and let you know if anything's making the official card or not. But you have a play for it tonight. Looking at a prop bet, Alvin Kamara, who has just been feasting on, in terms of touches, hasn't found the end zone, but he's been getting the ball on the ground, getting the ball in the passing game because of the injuries. You like him to go over 98.5 rushing and receiving yards. Talk to me about this matchup.
Yeah, this is one of those matchups, too, where the New Orleans Saints have a lot of injuries tonight. So I think that's going to increase Alvin Kamara's volume and potential. Like tonight, they're missing Michael Thomas, they're missing Chris Olave, and they're missing Jarvis Landry. So they're missing all 3 of their top wideouts. They do have some quality guys behind them, like Marquez Callaway is all right. Just not enough, though. And because of that, I think Kamara is going to be the main focus. I think it's going to be a night where he gets around 25-plus touches. And, guys, you got to understand, too, when you're doing player props, really more than anything, obviously you're going to look for an optimal situation against a defense like, say who's facing Kamara will be rough against the run. They might have linebackers that don't cover very well. But above all, you need volume and you need opportunity. If you can get that volume and opportunity, that is half the battle. Okay, and tonight, that's what I think Alvin Kamara is going to get. I think he's going to get plenty of volume and opportunity. And because of that, the Arizona Cardinals also aren't a team that tend to do well against running back. We saw what Kenneth Walker was able to do with them last week. He had 91 yards on 21 carries. The week before, Miles Sanders averaged 4 yards per carry. The week before that, Christian McCaffrey had 108 total yards. So running backs are hitting fairly easily against this Arizona Cardinals team. And Alvin Kamara is starting to get in a groove. You saw him last week. I believe he had over 190 total yards last week in terms of rushing and receiving. He's becoming this focal point once again. And with Andy Dalton under the helm as well, who's someone who's not going to be stretching the field as much, I think they're going to be looking to a lot more option routes and swing routes from Alvin Kamara. And what I mean by option routes is essentially, the running back comes out of the backfield. He either cuts it out right or he cuts it inside. He's kind of reading the body language of the linebacker. And that's something that Alvin Kamara is extremely good at. And probably the only person better than him at it is maybe Christian McCaffrey. So I really do like this spot for Alvin Kamara, 98.5 rushing and receiving yards. This is one I would also get earlier in the day because as news comes out that these 3 guys are missing and Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, and Jarvis Landry, a lot of people are going to be like, okay, Alvin Kamara, we're understandably so. So this number could push up a little bit. But my prop for this week is Alvin Kamara, 98.5 rushing and receiving yards.
Is this an official play on the card?
This one I have not put official on the card. I think I'm going to put it on a free play for Sports Memo tonight because what I like to do is I'll do a free play for the primetime matchups, Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. So I think I'll place that one up there, and I'll be honest, just because I really do enjoy this play, but there were not a ton of other player props to choose from right now. So Kind of had to go with Kamara, but again, I'm not trying to like take anyone off it. This is a genuine play. I do like this play. I'm probably going to make it a free play tonight over at Sports Memo. There just nothing was really just released.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So kind of recapping right now, we're looking at the 49ers on the money line, Miami Dolphins covering the 7, Green Bay Packers covering the 4.5. And then teaser options of the week that we're looking at are the Indianapolis Colts plus 8.5, the San Francisco 49ers plus 8.5, New England Patriots minus 1 or 1.5, the Las Vegas Raiders PK minus 0.5 or minus 1, and unless I'm missing anything, and I also like the Baltimore Ravens PK. I know I have to put together those teasers in different combinations to, of course, set some winners, but that is where I am looking. I'm sure I'll have some combination of that. Again, I'll certainly give out some free plays, but everything that is my official card is what I send to my Sports Memo clients as well as my buddies who are my, support system, who they get some access to that as well. But I'm always free to shoot the shit and talk, so let me know in the DMs what you want to know about any of our thoughts. Again, big promo. 4 $50 free bets are being given away. Did that week 1. We had 4 great winners. Big one last week with a big winner. We're choosing 4 new random liker, comment, subscribers, and people who enter the contest. We'll have all that information on our Twitter account at Bettor's Almanac. You can find me at Slime Action and Matt at Moneyline 2_Matt. Matt, any closing thoughts?
No, I really appreciate everyone's support. Branching off Eric's point, always feel free to hit us up in the DMs if you have any questions. If like an injury happens or weather changes, something like that, and you want to check in and be like, hey, are you still taking this game? We will be completely honest with you, 100%. Like I said, like we kind of talked about earlier with Alvin Kamara, like coming out as a free play. Things are a little different for Eric and I. We are professional sports handicappers. We have clients. We have subscribers. We have stuff that makes the official card and stuff that does not, So it is somewhat different with us. And you can always ask us, hey, is this going to be on your official card? I will tell you right now, Miami Dolphins is 100% on my official card right now. Other teams like the 49ers, I'm flirtatious with it. I think it'll get on the card. I'm taking a wait and see approach as well. You got to understand, you want to see line movement. You want to get that best price possible. So for me, I think a lot of people are going to be on the Chiefs. I think that'll push the 49ers line up. So I'm trying to take a patient approach, more of a wait and see. Another team that I'm somewhat flirtatious with is the LA Chargers. I think that's a solid pick 'em as well. That's at -6, because Keenan Allen is coming back. And when Keenan Allen's back, he takes that number 1 corner, and a lot of things change for guys like Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett. So that's another spot. But again, guys, all in all, very, very hype about this podcast. Eric and I are so appreciative of all the support. And let's just keep it rolling. We're going to give out these winners. We're going to give out these picks, the free bets, everything like that. So we're excited to grow this thing and glad that you're here with us.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Like, comment, review, subscribe, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you, and best of luck this weekend.